Man, wielding a sword just makes you think about knights and shining armor and chivalry and the medieval ages and oh, good day, mates. Welcome back to History with an Aussie. I'm your host, Ammon Ashby, and today we're going to be picking up where we left off last time in the medieval ages. In particular, we'll be diving into a fascinating journey, exploring how the Gothic era, ravaged by the Black Plague and other factors, set the stage for one of the most remarkable periods of art and culture, the Renaissance. Once again, we won't just speak about the rich history of these time periods, but we will take a deep dive into examples of the exquisite art and architecture that permeated that time. Buckle up, hit that like button, let's get started. Okay, so last time we left off talking about the great King Charlemagne. Yes, the 6'4" one, whatever you want to remember, and his impact on medieval thought. His feudal system and other ideas were instrumental in the social structure of this time. His conquests and his leadership were highlighted through chansons de gesta, or songs of heroic deeds. These stories were meant to inspire chivalry and loyalty to Charlemagne. One of the most famous of these songs was that of the Song of Roland, which depicts the historical event known as the Battle of Roncesvalles Pass in 778, where Charlemagne's nephew Roland was betrayed and slain. It is portrayed as a grand and tragic last stand against all odds. These stories permeated early medieval culture and led us to one of the greatest eras in medieval time, the Gothic era. The Gothic era, no, not that Gothic era, endured from the mid-12th century to the late 16th century in Europe. Particularly in its later phases, it was sometimes referred to as the cult of the Virgin, due to its increased veneration of the Virgin Mary during that time. The Virgin Mary became a central figure in Gothic art and architecture. This period saw the construction of many cathedrals dedicated to her, most notably the Notre Dame. You know, the one from the Disney movie with the hunchback, all that beautiful stuff. Many cathedrals were built during this time, sported new architectural developments, such as pointed arches, 3 portals, lace and stone, stained glass windows, archivolts, flying buttresses, and many more. The Chartres Cathedral is a beautiful example of these concepts and these Gothic era marvels, sporting pointed arches, a beautiful rose-stained glass window, asymmetrical spires, 3 portals, and lace and stone. As we can see, the Gothic era was highlighted by the power of the Christian church during that time. However, in the coming years, there would be 3 transitional events that would send Europe into a new age of Renaissance. Our first major player in these 3 transitional events is Saint Francis of Assisi. Born in the late 12th century, Saint Francis is renowned for his radical approach to spirituality. He embraced poverty, humility, and a deep personal connection with nature and with God. While most Christendom believed in being separate from the world, he really embraced the truth of being in the world, but not of the world. He taught that Heavenly Father is not going to make a bunch of idiots, that he has endowed each of us with inherited traits that spark divinity within ourselves. He believed that God truly wants to bring us home. Overall, he introduced a new model of religious life that prioritized simplicity and charity. His teachings challenged the opulence of the medieval church, advocating for a return to fundamental Christian values. This shift was not just spiritual, but also had a profound impact on society, influencing how people viewed their relationship with God and the world around them. These values also influenced the art, as we see in the work of Cambau and Giotto. Both artists' renditions of the Madonna enthroned show a shift towards naturalism, whereas previous generations tried to avoid naturalism when depicting saints and Jesus Christ in order to avoid blasphemy. This emphasis on humility and service began to seep into a broader culture, setting the stage for the Renaissance's focus on humanism and individual potential. Next, we encounter the Great Schism, a dramatic period where Europe saw not one, but multiple claims to the papacy after the death of Pope Boniface VIII. Pope Urban VI, an Italian, was elected pope. However, the cardinals and the French interests refused to accept him as pope. They named Clement VII as pope. Clement withdrew to Avignon, while Urban remained in Rome. Western Christendom could not decide which one to obey. Some countries declared for Urban and the other countries accepted Clement. The spectacle of the 2 rival popes, each holding himself out as the only true successor to St. Peter, continued for about 40 years and injured the papacy more than anything else that had happened before it. The church's authority in question and its influence fragmented, and many Europeans began to lose faith in the institution that had long been a central authority in their lives. This erosion of papal power created a a fertile ground for new ideas and reforms, contributing to a broader shifts that would eventually set the stage for the Renaissance's emphasis on new ways of thinking and a reevaluation of traditional authority. Finally, we faced the Black Plague, a catastrophic pandemic that swept through Europe in the mid-14th century. By 1348, the plague's devastating impact killed over 1/3 of Europe's population and crippled the economy. The plague's impact extended beyond the immediate devastation. The people saw it as a plague sent as a curse from God. This motivated them to think back to, man, when was the last time things were good? It led to an obsession with Greek and Roman culture. Even though they were pagan, they decided to take the best of the Greek and Roman culture and pair it with Christianity. They began to look back to thinkers like Socrates and Plato and other Greek and Roman philosophers for guidance. This questioning spirit was crucial in fostering the Renaissance's exploration of human potential and a renewed interest in classical knowledge. These three transformative events, the reforms of St. Francis of Assisi, the turmoil of the Great Schism, and the devastation of the Black Plague, created a backdrop of change that helped ignite the Renaissance. This set the stage for a cultural rebirth that celebrated human achievement, creativity, and a renewed interest in classical ideals, which leads us to the age of the Renaissance. The Renaissance had three pivotal ideals. The first was classic humanism, which emphasizes the beauty of human body and the potential of human achievements. Artists and thinkers looked back to the past, drawing inspiration from classical antiquity to glorify God through their work. This was a dramatic shift from the medieval focus on divine mystery and the afterlife. In contrast, 20th century humanism often moves away from the religious aspect instead of moving towards it. The next one is individualism. This era marked a significant shift towards self-expression and recognition of the individual artist. Unlike the anonymous artists in the medieval period, Renaissance creators proudly signed their works. This focus on personal achievement and identity was revolutionary, reflecting a broader cultural emphasis on individual potential. Third was scientific naturalism. This philosophy represented the blend of art and science, where artists sought to understand and represent the natural world with greater accuracy. The study of anatomy and perspective and the physical world allowed artists to create more realistic and scientifically informed representations in their work than ever before. Florence, which was the birthplace of the Renaissance, was home to many groundbreaking artists. Donatello, no, not that Donatello, was one of the first great Renaissance sculptors. He is known for his majestic and realistic sculptures. His depiction of David, for example. Donatello made him look effeminate to our standards, but it was because he wanted to reflect David's courage and faith rather than his physical strength. Donatello's sculpture of the prophet Habakkuk is a testament to his innovative approach and mastery of sculpting. Speaking of Donatello, a contemporary of his was Verrocchio, another master sculptor. He followed in Donatello's footsteps, pushing the boundaries of artistic expression. This is also seen in his rendition of David. Both Donatello and Verrocchio were among the first of a long line of early Renaissance artists, including Sandro Botticelli, renowned for his works such as The Birth of Venus, Primavera, and the Madonna of the Magnificent. He further added to the rich history of the early Renaissance. However, not all were enamored by Renaissance ideals. Savonarola, a monk and a fierce critic of Renaissance art, waged a campaign against what he saw as the moral decay of Florence. After the death of Lorenzo the Magnificent, who was part of the powerful Medici family who funded many Renaissance projects, Savonarola's influence grew, leading to the infamous Bonfire of Vanities, where many Renaissance artworks were burned by Savonarola's disciples as symbols of vice. However, the Medici family consolidated power. They accused Savonarola of heresy, said he had to walk on clothes. He refused, and next thing you know, he admits to heresy and he is hanged and burned at the stake. Crazy stuff, am I right? This finally leads us into the High Renaissance. It was marked by one man and one man only, Leonardo. Not the title again, no. Leonardo da Vinci, whose genius spanned art, science, and invention. Even though he only completed about 15 paintings that we know of, he is renowned as one of the greatest artists of all time. Some of his notable works include The Last Supper, which highlights new techniques in fresco and wax, and the Mona Lisa, which is known as the most expensive and most famous painting in the world. These works exemplify what we would know as the Renaissance man, which is someone who excels in multiple fields and embodies the spirit of innovation and exploration. Leonardo and his works inspired a whole new generations of artists, giving way to the High Renaissance. Moving on to another towering figure of the High Renaissance, we find Michelangelo. And I know you're going to put the title up there. It's fine, whatever. Michelangelo began his artistic journey as a teenager in Florence. At the tender age of 22, he sculpted the masterpiece we know as the Pieta, which increased his fame exponentially, partly because he signed across the sash of Mary. What the heck? He later was commissioned to sculpt one of the most famous works of Michelangelo, which is Michelangelo's David, which has become the symbol of Florence and is over 17 feet tall, and it represents us facing the giants in our lives. Another notable wonder of Michelangelo was the Sistine Chapel ceiling, which showcases his unparalleled skill and deep religious devotion. It also showcased Michelangelo's fascination with anatomy and art. As seen in his painting of God giving knowledge to Adam, the Father looks as if he is shaped like a brain. Both Michelangelo and Leonardo made many strides in understanding and drawing human anatomy. Michelangelo's work represents the Renaissance's pinnacle of artistic achievement and theological reflection. Lastly, we get to Raphael, who rounds out the Ninja Turtles. He was a contemporary of Leonardo and Michelangelo and also made significant contributions to the Renaissance. His works, such as the School of Athens and the Sistine Madonna, reflect his admiration for classical learning and his exceptional talent in composition. Overall, the Renaissance was a period of profound transformation, marked by a revival of classical ideals, a celebration of individual achievement, and a fusion of art and science. From the ashes of the Black Plague and the turmoil of the Great Schism emerged a new era of human creativity and intellectual exploration. So there you have it. If you enjoyed this journey through the Renaissance, don't forget to like and subscribe down below. And all I can say is stay curious. Good day, mates.